Okay, let's do a little work with controlling idea statements, specifically in relation to this assignment for semester one on the era of change. What does the rubric say? The rubric says that we need to establish and maintain a clear, specific, and credible controlling statement that addresses all aspects of the prompt. So we need to have the Persia theme, and we also need to have something about how the achievements or actions of this person are reflective of this time period. And I encourage you to think of how it was a time period of change and modernization and a thirst for knowledge. You also want to take into account the complexity of the topic. We don't need to turn this into a multi-paragraph essay, and we also don't want to write so little that we're not getting at what the question is asking. Imagine you had to do a prompt like this. Explain how the Protestant Reformation was a religious and political revolution. In this, it would be expected that you cover all areas of the prompt. So there's something in your controlling idea statement that refers to the religious changes and also the political changes. I want to give you a list of 4 things to avoid when putting your controlling idea statement together. So you can go ahead and write 1, 2, 3, 4 on your paper. What I'm interested in is what I have in blue that will pop up on the screen. You're welcome to write the example as well, or you can just use it as a visual together. The first thing we want to do is we want to avoid a list-like start. At one point in time, a list was an appropriate thing for you to do when writing, and it helps you have a lot of structure and clarity. In this prompt, a list doesn't really make sense because there's 2 things that are mentioned in the prompt. And as we get into a list, we're sort of losing our ability to articulate in a real focused way what our response is going to be. The next thing is we want to avoid repeating the obvious and just simply stating that the Protestant Reformation was a political and religious revolution. It already says that in the prompt. We're supposed to explain how. So we haven't really addressed all aspects of the prompt here. The next is being too general. And I always feel like these are the topic sentences and paragraphs or the controlling idea statements and essays, or in this case, they're one and of the same, that they're not incorrect, but they're just not specific enough. It'd be like if I said to you, who's Tom Brady? And you said, well, it's a guy that's never been to my house. Well, that's true, but there's a lot of guys that have never been to your house. Tom Brady is an NFL quarterback who's won more Super Bowls than any other quarterback in history. That's a little bit more specific. The next thing is you want to avoid changing the prompt. Sometimes students have a way to start a paragraph that they feel like they're just trying to establish context. So, for example, the 1500s was a time of tremendous religious change. That's not false, but that's not addressing all parts of the prompt. The prompt is asking you something different, and we want you to stick to what the focus is. So let's go to this assignment. It says, using one Persia theme, describe how an individual's achievements or actions reflect the changes of their time period. So all of you have had to pick a Persia theme so far, and you've also had to choose some achievements, or maybe one big achievement that you're going to explain how that's reflective of the time period in 2 ways. No one is doing Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton's actually a little bit after the Renaissance, so I thought it would be good to use an example that nobody is doing. Imagine if Isaac Newton was your topic. Here's a list-like start that I would avoid. Isaac Newton was a pioneer of the scientific revolution through his studies in optics, calculus, and physics. Again, not super articulate and listing, and it's not really getting to how he was reflective of the time. We want to avoid repeating the obvious. We know Isaac Newton was a pioneer of the scientific revolution. We want to understand why or how he was. We want to avoid being too specific, too general rather. Isaac Newton was a pioneer of the scientific revolution for his multiple achievements. Multiple achievements isn't wrong, it's just not precise enough. And anybody walking into the room could guess that because Isaac Newton was a choice for the project. So we want to do something that requires somebody with knowledge of the topic to actually be able to say to somebody. And lastly, something that would be changing the prompt would be Isaac Newton was a physicist and mathematician from the United Kingdom. This is true. It's a great way to set the scene, but it's not really what this prompt is asking, so it's not an appropriate controlling idea statement. Let me show you an example of one that would be. Through his groundbreaking discoveries in mathematics and physics, Isaac Newton established himself as one of the great pioneers of the scientific revolution. So I'm giving you a little bit of insight into the Persia theme. It is all about intellectual. He was a mathematician, he was a physicist, and he's a pioneer of this scientific revolution, which in and of itself was an intellectual era. Also, I'm giving you something specific, and rather than just saying achievements, I'm giving you directions and telling you that he did some groundbreaking discoveries in mathematics and physics. So that tells you that you're going to learn about a guy who discovered things in those two fields. He didn't just do work in those two fields, he actually discovered things that others in the future would utilize. So as you go forward into this project, I want you to think about your topic sentence and how could you write something that avoids some of these four things to stay away from. And then also think about what the prompt is asking you. You need to utilize a Persia theme. Please do not say Persia theme in your writing. You can just use the word political or use the word religious or use the word artistic. Or you could do something like I did with Isaac Newton and just use words that convey the theme. I didn't say intellectual, but I sure implied it with the fact that this person was making discoveries in mathematics and physics. I hope that helps as you go forward with your topic sentence.